welcome to the Total Clarity Podcast. I'm Mike Varlet.
I'm Jessie Hyatt.
And we're here with our second episode, and we are doubling the complexity because we're having our first guest on today. You notice the headphones. We're doing a remote guest for obvious COVID reasons, so we're really multiplying the challenge of technical error potential. But I hope that we're going to do a great job, and we're going to be very entertaining. Jessie, do you want to tell us who our guest is?
I do, yeah. So today we have Sophie Hays. Sophie is our longtime friend. She is a young woman born in the UK, raised in the Midwest, who now resides in Brooklyn. She's a freelance photo retoucher who enjoys getting into costume, spending time in the wilderness, and balancing an unreasonable amount of hobbies. But her top interest is, of course, her cat, Basil. And we're so excited to have Sophie with us. Hi, Sophie.
Sophie Hays.
Hello.
Welcome.
What a nice introduction.
Of course. We aim to have nothing but the best for our guests.
And it's true. I liked reading that introduction because I know all those things to be true about you. I've watched you get into costume in the wilderness, even.
Yeah, they're not exclusive.
So we should really start at the top. We've had a very exciting day today in Friendland, and your story might be one of the more exciting ones of the day. So tell us. Yeah.
Wow. Well, yes. So our good friends, Tim and Jessie, were expecting to have a baby tomorrow. And I had offered to drive them to the hospital because I have a car. And, I didn't really want Tim driving while Jessie is going into labor. So,
Totally.
Yeah, I was woken up this morning at 8:30 by a phone call from Tim saying that, it's not happening yet, but basically she was going into pre-labor and, once her contractions got a little bit closer together, it's go time.
Yeah.
So, I basically jumped out of bed and was like, oh my God, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And, I got dressed and I wiped down all the inside of the car and made sure the gas tank was full, just making sure there was no mishaps. And I actually because, our car is a few blocks away, I was hoping to bring it closer. So but it's still New York City, couldn't find a parking spot. So
Oh, no.
ended up just driving around the block 3 times and taking it back to the car park. But yeah, and at, let's see, I guess it was around 10 a.m. I got a second phone call saying it's time. This baby is coming.
Wow.
And yeah, so went and picked him up. It was only a 15-minute drive to the hospital, and
What hospital were they at again?
oh, I think it's maybe New York Presbyterian. It was in Lower Manhattan. Yeah, so we got to drive over the Brooklyn Bridge, which was exciting.
Right, because for anyone that might be watching this that doesn't know you're in Williamsburg, they're in Williamsburg. Yes. So close by, and then just right over the bridge.
Right over the bridge.
Nice.
Yeah, and then, 4 hours later, baby Isaiah was born.
Baby Isaiah.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's been a very exciting day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you had such a hand in making this happen.
Yeah, I mean,
that's great.
Yeah, I feel very grateful that I'm able to be there and give them anything they need. I know it's a really tough time because obviously their family can't really come, and very selfishly, I've been a little upset that we haven't really gotten to go through the pregnancy with her as much as I, had expected. But so, it feels good to be able to contribute. Totally.
Was there a lot of congestion around the hospital? What was it like there? Quiet or?
It was pretty quiet. There was really no traffic until we got of course a block away from the hospital, and Jessie's I'm just well, please don't have the baby yet. But there was some men outside doing construction. I don't know, this car pulled over in front of me and like had stopped to talk to them. And I'm like honking my horn, like, we are having a baby. Get out of my way. You know, they eventually pulled over and it was okay. But.
Did you yell and tell them that? Because that seems like such a scene from a New York movie or something.
I didn't yell, but I did honk very vigorously, which I never do.
Right.
That's great.
What was the mood in the car? Were you feeling frantic or excited or both or nervous or just or calm or
Yeah, I thought that it was really cute actually. You know, Jessie, I'm sure like I don't know what contractions feel like. I believe that they're painful. But you know, she had a very zen like face the whole time, you know, like her eyes were closed and she was just sort of like, you know, and like when the contractions would come on, you know, that it was obvious that she was in pain, but Tim was like talking her through it and like, you know, helping her remember the breathing and everything and being like, you know, we're almost there. Like, we just have to get through this one and then we're at the hospital. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it felt like frantic. I don't know. I was definitely excited and like, I was just like, just get them there.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I was like, they're having this really nice moment. Like, I don't know. I actually kind of, like, weirdly felt like I'm imagining myself as, like, a taxi driver or like, an Uber driver or something. Because, like, they're both in the back. And I'm like, I don't know, like, how much to talk to them in this moment. Like, you know, just focus on the road and get everyone there safely.
Right. Well, you did your job really well.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. It makes me think that maybe it almost seems like that could be a rideshare like variant, you know, like people that are just dedicated to getting pregnancies to the hospital.
Totally.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I would have done if like there was really bad traffic or like if she really like was going into labor, like what sort of like adrenaline kicks in.
Right.
Where like my driving style changes completely. I don't.
Right.
So I honestly was very grateful that I didn't have to like swerve around anyone or like, you know, go on a curb or anything.
Yeah. I'm sure
I ran one red light.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's good. That proves that you love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it was towards the end and I was kind of like, there's no one here. Like, I can go, right? And Tim's like, I think you can go. And I was like, yeah, I'm going. But then the construction thing happened and I was like, oh no.
Well, cheers to the Hedler family and baby Isaiah.
Cheers.
A new life in the world. It's fantastic.
Cheers.
Tink.
Tink. Yeah, it's a nice. It's definitely a nice addition to this time and something positive to think about, like looking at its tiny little face constantly.
Yeah, and it's this new little baby is going to know this as baseline. So everything else in his life is going to be better.
Right. Well, I mean, it's very interesting. I was talking to Chris, you know, my boyfriend, about this a few weeks ago, or maybe longer. I don't know what time is, but you know, just about like maybe not babies, but like younger kids, or even like probably just like younger kids. Like this is what they know as normal, maybe.
Yeah, I've been seeing this. I don't know if you would call it a meme, but this thing that's been on like Facebook and whatnot, where parents of young kids are asking a few questions like, what is COVID? How do you protect yourself? Do you like being home? Do you want to go back to school? Do you want to go outside? And the answers are really wild. Like, what is COVID? A lot of these really little kids just know what it is. And then how do you protect yourself is like with a cape and sword and shield, you know? So it's like there is a disconnect, but it's really innocent and doesn't have that same like all-encompassing fear that we seem to have as adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that there's so much media. There's so many commercials, like we talked about last week, where everything is assembled around this idea of COVID being a part of the landscape now. And kids are so much more perceptive than we are when it comes to that sort of stuff. That, yeah, it makes sense that they could probably repeat verbatim a lot of the things that you would need to do and are internalizing it in a way that also, yeah, probably is a lot less fear-based too. Because it's not like there's no jump scare involved with this,
Right.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, I think that would be what would frighten a child. But like, if you're just repeating something and, telling people what to do, maybe that would be something that would just be normal and not terrifying.
It could be. Yeah, it's interesting to dive into. I feel like for us, a big part of the fear is that we're losing our sense of normalcy, which the kids they're learning. They're still learning what that is. I mean, we're still learning what that is to some degree too, but we're at least at a point in life where we have an idea of what it is and it's being flipped on its head. And for these little ones, I feel like they're going to be fine.
Well, the advantage that kids have over us is like, they don't really understand job loss or like
Right.
politics and anything that's been like really causing my anxiety. I feel like they don't really have to deal with.
Right. Yeah. I mean, do you remember being a kid? I don't know if this is a typical thing, but I remember watching I could only tell time by length of TV shows. So we'd go on a car trip and I'd ask, how long is it till we get to so-and-so's house? And my mom would say 3 Barneys.
Oh my gosh.
or something like that. Also, she's probably going to watch this and maybe I'm remembering it completely wrong. She'll correct me if I am. But I do remember having such a skewed sense of time.
Yeah.
And I wonder, how kids are thinking about this whole length of time. Like, it's such a significant portion of their lives now.
Yeah, that's how I'll do a poor job explaining this, but the idea being that like if you go from the age of 1 to the age of 2 and you have any memories of that time, that's half of your life, So
Right.
A child that's 5 right now and they experience 3 months in quarantine is like the equivalent of us 2 or 3 years of our lives,
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I know a lot of people with kids, but I don't talk to them regularly. But my one friend Sarah, who has a 6-year-old, in the beginning, like she was explaining to her that like basically this is happening, and we can't go outside, and this is what we have to do, and like she understood all of that. But the next day she'd be like, "So we're going to school today, right?" And it's like every day kind of had to start over, like. No, like we're still not doing that today. Like this is still happening. And I feel like, a lot of us kind of felt that way too in the beginning. We're like, oh, it's 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And then every 2 weeks we're like, it's over, right?
Totally. Sure. I mean, I remember vividly, I think it was just the first or maybe 10 days in, and we were all on a Zoom call, and someone suggested having Passover over Zoom. And I was like, it was still 3 weeks away, and I was like, no, why would you even say that? We will definitely be done with this by then. And I was so upset because I couldn't even fathom that we would possibly still be here. And now 2 months later, we're still here.
Passover was so long ago.
So long ago.
Do either of you remember some sort of world-changing event from that formative age? I remember the Berlin Wall falling when I was 5. And I can't say that it was something that shook my world, but I just remember being on the bus in kindergarten and having a very, strong memory and understanding of the idea that this major event is happening.
Oh, wow. Well, that happened about 6 months before I was born.
Yeah.
So I don't remember that one, but
Yeah. No.
I mean, they don't happen that
remember
frequent. They don't happen that frequently.
No, well, I'm trying to think what would be, because Sophie, you would have been probably 2 or 3 when that happened in '89.
Yeah, I would have been 2.
I'm trying to think what would have happened in your 4, 5, 6 range, or in my 4, 5, 6 range, like between 94 and 97, I guess.
Yeah, the Oklahoma City bombing, I think, but that's like not a global scale event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like nothing. Turns out nothing happened in the '90s, really.
Well, Jesse
Yeah.
was born.
I was born. Do you remember that? Was that impactful and earth-shattering?
No, it's fun. Well, it's funny, I guess, because like when I was 5 was when we moved to America. So
Okay.
that's like my biggest memory from that time period.
Sure, yeah.
What was that like for you? Do you have a lot of memories about that?
No, not honestly, no, not really.
No.
No. I
that's-
was trying to think, like, I don't remember I don't remember being on a plane or getting on a plane or anything like that. I remember sort of like starting school and not wanting to get on the school bus, like crying my eyes out. But I don't even know if I like fully understood that we had like moved to another country.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that is interesting though, because yeah, it's similar in a way where it's like, okay, well, you just must have just accepted it in some way that like things are changing. You don't understand the degree of the change
Yeah.
or what that means.
And
you probably just rolled with it.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest thing for me, definitely, and this is going to sound crazy, but the hardest thing for me was the language. Because
Oh, wow.
we speak the same language, right?
Right.
But like, not really. Like for a 5-year-old, when you're in a new place and you're like trying to discover things, like this is when you're supposed to be starting to learn. So like I would get like spelling tests marked wrong all the time, to the point where my mom like marched into my teacher's office and was like, "This is outrageous. Like she spelled this correctly. It's just not the American version of this language, you know."
Oh, wow.
Kind of thing. And like I remember like this is the defining moment. Everyone asks me like why I don't have an English accent, and I always use this example as like the defining moment was in 2nd grade. I had cut my finger on something, and I was asking for a plaster because that's what a Band-Aid is called in England. And like no one knew what I was talking about, not even the teacher. And I'm just standing there with like a bleeding finger being like, "I'm asking for a plaster. I don't understand what the problem is here. Why aren't you taking care of me?" And like, I feel like at that point was like, all right, fine. I'm becoming an American. You guys win.
Oh, wow. That's so sad.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, how dumb do you have to be to not be like, oh, the child needs a Band-Aid?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing more to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've actually never heard that term
that word?
until right now. I've never heard a Band-Aid called a plaster. But yeah, I think if I was dealing with a small child, especially like a small child with an English accent, I'd be like, oh, it must mean a Band-Aid. I don't know. She's bleeding. It doesn't really matter what she wants. She needs a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard plaster either. That's pretty wild. But I could gather the idea that your finger needed to be spackled and some plaster was in order.
Yeah.
I mean, so I have a similar story to that I'll maybe tell in a minute. But did you like, you mark that as the moment that you decided to be American, you know, but like did you start also consciously speaking with an American accent at that point? Or like you just kind of feel like that's the time frame at which point the switch flipped?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I feel like probably that was the moment, because like, you know, you're a kid, you're trying to fit in, and And actually, I've never thought about this, but I always feel that when I'm spending a lot of time with someone, I like start to assimilate their voice and like their laughter, and even like it's really creepy to me.
Totally.
And I wonder if like that's when it started. Also, it's like second grade. Like, oh, I'm just gonna assimilate to whoever I'm around, because then they'll understand me.
That might be, and maybe we all have like or a lot of us have a moment like that. But I think I've heard that before, and I have definitely done that. Yeah. And I actually remember the very first time I was aware of myself doing it. I was on like a church camp sleepaway thing in Philly, and there were people from West Virginia, I think. And I was like 13. And we were all playing cards, and we got along really well. And after a couple days, I caught myself having this West Virginia accent and talking like the kids. And I thought it was really cool. And I remember coming back home and being like, oh yeah, I like know how to speak like West Virginian people now because I like went to this church thing. It's no big deal. But now, like thinking back on it now, I'm like, that's weird. That was like, it's weird. It's weird when that happens.
Yeah, because right, like at what point do you stop saying? Like, at what point do you go back to your like normal voice?
Yeah, I have a theory. I think it must come from some kind of safety with humans that you know are your people or something. Like if we were out in the wild, I don't know if that's, or whatever. If we were out, like before we kind of knew how to group ourselves, I'm butchering this because we don't know how to group ourselves. We can prove in many different ways that we're fucking it up. But like, whatever. I'm just going to try and make my way through this point. I feel like there must have been some time where, you know, if you have a group of 5, that's your family, and then it expands to 10, it expands to 40, you might not know everyone, but these speech patterns and these certain ways of sounding or making noise could potentially distinguish your group from another group and like be some sort of precaution.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's how like regional accents even happen. Is you sound like the people that you're physically close to.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, it's language and music are very similar. And I think it's just more pleasing to be able to harmonize with someone in a way that, you know, sounds the same. And if you start making the same types of sounds, rhyming might happen or things like that. And then there's that added enjoyment of that level of interaction with people. So I think it's just a natural thing.
Yeah, it must be a human thing.
Yeah. The thing that I find really interesting about that as well is like my dad, for example, everyone in America who meets him thinks he sounds English.
Right.
But anyone in Europe thinks he sounds American.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's weird.
But why is that? It's hard for me to fathom that anybody would think your dad sounds American.
Because he had, like, I mean, to me, he just sounds like my dad. But, like, if you're speaking to, like, English people all the time, and, you know, they sound like that, and then you hear this guy who's been living in America for, 20 years, or, well, more than that, probably, but 25 years or so, like, you definitely pick up that, sort of more of, like, the twang.
Right.
And probably like certain words as well. And so to everyone else, he sounds completely American. Like they wouldn't even guess that he was English.
Wow, that's wild. Yeah, it must be some like line. He's really walking that middle line.
Yeah.
Does he mention like, does that make him feel any certain way?
I mean, he's very proud to be British,
Okay.
So I think, last year, actually like right around this time was when we went to Portugal and Spain, and, we're walking to Santiago, and, Yeah, it was definitely one of the most memorable things of that trip is everyone asking like, "Oh, you're American?" Him like, "Oh no, I'm British." Like,
Just like really leaning into it then.
yeah.
Carrying a cup of tea with him everywhere.
Yeah, just to make
it
sure,
clear.
like he had his umbrella,
Right.
Have you ever talked to your parents about how they feel about you or your brother not having an accent? Because for me, if I had kids and then they had a different accent than I had, I think it would be very weird for me. Like it would feel like somehow a disconnect with my kids in some way.
Yeah. I don't know if we've ever really discussed it, but I feel like that like this is just what our voices are. I don't. It's like when I talk to my dad, I don't think like, I'm talking to an Englishman.
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm talking to like my dad.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like this. It's probably less pronounced to an outsider, but certainly my mom says certain words in particular ways that I don't. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't think of any, like my mom says wooder and sometimes will like drop the H in certain words. I can't think of anything that my
Like
dad
a
might say.
washing machine.
Oh, no, like dropping the H from the front of a word. Like, I can't even think of a word right now, but
I don't know.
I'll have to circle back to this.
Yeah. I'm curious what words you can say without the H. Like hot,
No.
hungry, like hungry. I don't.
Now that's starting to sound like a Cockney a little bit. I'm hot and hungry.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that because you guys know that we play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
And there a lot of the time it comes up where you'll do a character that has a terrible English accent. For some reason, that is the go-to in that.
Oh,
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
And it like when Chris does it, it drives me nuts because he literally just like drops all the like the consonants. I guess he's like Owen to the to the, and I'm like, what? Like that's not how people talk.
That's really funny. I wonder why that is. I definitely can link that and it makes total sense to me, but it also, like, once I start to think about it, I don't know why that bad English accent is associated with any sort of, like, fantasy world thing.
I would imagine between My Fair Lady and Mary Poppins, those are two very famous American
Yeah.
cultural touchstones for what a British person could sound like.
Yeah,
and
the Dick Van Dyke completely botched
yeah,
accent.
yeah. And they, like, the other ones just aren't as fun to do, really.
Yeah.
Like a high English, and also like I think immediately like a stuffy person, which is probably not what you're going for in the Dungeons and
Yeah.
Dragons
Right.
vibe,
Well, I guess also if you are thinking of, like, the Dick Van Dyke English accent, it's so accessible because it's so bad. Like,
Yeah.
and so as an American, like, I could probably do that. I could do the Dick Van Dyke version because it's like it's not moving that far out of my range.
Right.
Well, circling back to what you were saying before about plaster and your teacher and making a decision, a thing that reminded me of making a decision when I was a child was how I write,
Oh.
which I don't have a pen, I don't think
Because
anywhere.
you're left-handed.
I'm left-handed, but I also hold my pen in a very peculiar way.
It
There's
is
a
peculiar.
remote here. I hold my pen like this, whereas like most people hold their pen like this, like I
Yeah.
hold all of my fingers
Right.
on the pen. And I remember in high school having this vague notion that I fell asleep in kindergarten and woke up and looked to the kid to the right of me, and he was holding the pen like that. And so I just copied him, and that's how I learned how to write.
Yeah.
And I I thought that's preposterous, right? Like that can't be, like how would anybody decide to write because of that? And then when I was in high school, there was this kid, Mike Alfano, who transferred back into my high school, but he was in kindergarten with me, and he wrote the exact same way that I did, which is...
Was it the original kid?
I mean, he was in my kindergarten class, and he wrote exactly the same way. I can think of no other reason to think of why I would write that way. I was also like good friends with him in kindergarten, so presumably I was sitting next to him, you know? But
Wow.
it's like, I think that there are moments, and there are probably like a handful of others in my life when I was a child where you like make these decisions, you know? And it's like, there's the part of your personality that's just like impulses and like, you know, in a given day, we're like 90% on autopilot. And then there's like the 10% of you that makes those autopilot decisions. And like that was it. And it kind of sounds like that was it when you had this traumatic finger injury where you were like, nope, I just got to be American now, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
But I kind of strive to think about more of those as I go on in life, because I think those are the most interesting parts of our lives, where we like make these decisions for ourselves based on things that are kind of arbitrary too, like, you know, napping in kindergarten and then waking up and like making this decision about my hand that now like people comment on all the time, you know,
Right.
Yeah.
and tell me I'm wrong, you know.
But your handwriting is really nice.
I use script, which seems to be almost a thing that people are actively campaigning against now.
No.
I don't know.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah, no, I get the impression that people are like, I don't know, they like print or nothing. People are, I think by the time we're ready to pass on, I don't think script's going to be around anymore.
Well, I know that when I took it was called the Green Workers Cooperative class. It was up in the Bronx, and it was like a business class that lasted for 6 months. And there was a group that I think they had graduated in the class before me, and their whole thing was about getting script into the public schools, because I know it was being cut out of the curriculum, but I don't think it was that people wanted it to be removed. I think it was that the people in charge wanted it to be removed for budgetary reasons, or, you know, the same reason that they get rid of art classes and stuff like that. It's just like, don't bother teaching the kids script. They need to learn typing, and they need to learn the STEM curriculum, and they don't need to worry about this, like, cursive, you know?
Yeah.
I guess I kind of see the point. I kind of agree to that in a certain way. Like, not that I would want to, you know, eliminate it entirely, but maybe it's more of like an elective. Like, if you want to learn how to write this other way, you can.
Yeah, I guess it feels very important to me, but I don't know why. I really can't tell you why. I think it doesn't come up very often that I need to read script or write in script. It really only comes up when I'm trying to read something that Mike wrote, or if someone else, I know there's a girl that works for me that writes in script, and sometimes I'll have her make recipes or something, and she writes it out. And actually, the first time she did that, she said, "Oh, I didn't even realize until I was halfway through I wrote in script. Is that okay? Do you know how to read that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know how to read script."
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but now it also made me think, wow, that's something we need to ask.
Is it that different that you wouldn't be able to read it?
I think so. I think you could probably fill in the blanks, but I feel like the fact that all the letters connect, and then like the S doesn't the Z definitely doesn't look like a Z. I mean, there's a lot of letters that look like letters, but then also a lot of letters that don't. Now I'm just running through it.
No, B doesn't really look like B.
Yeah.
F is kind of hard.
Even F doesn't really look like an F.
My recent favorite script letter is capital Q.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Because
it's like the little 2, right?
Because I realized somewhere in the past couple of years that it looks very much like a Q that's missing its back part in an elegant way. Like, because it just like, whoop, like because the actual cue portion is there. It's just missing like I don't know, like a third. It's like the negative space is very powerful in a cue.
Yeah.
I remember distinctly when I realized that I could make my J's different, because, you know, my name is Jessie, and so it starts with a J, and I always was making it like loop, loop. And then I learned that I could do like a scoop loop. It was life-changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I could just do a straight down, like I could switch it up so many different ways. That felt cool.
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah, I have to say, I never liked the capital S in cursive.
Yeah.
I much prefer the other one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little boring, huh?
It's kind of like weirdly difficult to make look good or consistent, I find.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the primary, I mean, I enjoy writing, I like writing things down, pretty much anything, before I type it. I like how it slows things down. I like that I can make my own notation. And I do like the idea that I can make something look nicer and more official by writing in script. But it certainly previously was to be more time efficient than print, but that's no longer the case versus typing. And now I guess the primary reason I can think of would be hand dexterity for children. You know, the idea that you can manipulate, you know, fine motor skills and whatnot. I don't know if there's a lot of other things like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're cutting out art classes and you're cutting out music classes and you're cutting out script, where are the kids going to get that from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just tying their shoes again and again?
Yeah.
Well, not if they use Velcro.
Oh my God.
Good point. Or lasers or whatever the future is going to be.
You just laser my shoe on. Yeah, well, it's funny that you say, like, you know, script. I guess I never realized that it was meant for, like, a time-saving aspect. Because, like, when I write, it's not like I write each letter. Like, it is more of a fluid, like, they all connect.
Yeah.
You know? And so I do feel like my personal handwriting is, like, a combination of writing in all caps print mixed with cursive.
I mean, I think it was also like a refining thing. You know, back in the day, if you wrote in script, you could identify as potentially of a certain class. You know?
Yeah.
Well, that was my first thought when you said that people are campaigning to get rid of it. I was like, is this like a class thing?
Oh,
yeah, that's
interesting.
it. Well, that's also interesting in relation to the story I told you about the people in the class with me. That was in the Bronx, and they were specifically focused on keeping script in public schools in the Bronx. And I wonder, I don't know, I don't think I got into it too much, but I am curious, maybe it is to some degree, like the more privileged schools are still teaching it, and so it's like this disconnect between the kids that are going to public school in the Bronx and the kids that are going to private school in Lower Manhattan or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to go away. I think it'll just go away across the board, except like weird boarding schools.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, now all the kids are getting homeschooled, kind of. Maybe.
Well, we'll be lucky if they know how to write at all at this rate.
All kids are only learning Animal Crossing.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
You don't have a Switch, right? Neither you or Chris have a Switch? Yeah.
No.
That's that game's quite a phenomenon. We don't have a Switch either, but
Is that the only way to play it?
Do you have? Yeah. Is that the only way to play
it is to my knowledge. Yes.
Oh.
I'm like 99.9%
Yeah.
sure.
It looks pretty cute.
Yeah, I mean, it was set up to be a big success. People I know that are, you know, into very good games, wouldn't necessarily be into cute things, were very excited about the game. So it was really a tsunami of circumstances between it already being a hotly anticipated game, it being very well regarded as a quality game, and a global pandemic, with the elements of, I don't know how much either of you know about it, because it might just be monologuing about Animal Crossing, but you can go visit other people's islands.
Right.
So there is this social aspect of being able to visit that actually like outstrips Zoom in some weird ways, in terms of like connection to another human during this time.
Because you can see like how they're spending their time, what they're making, or what their island looks like or something.
Do you actually interact with them or no?
Yeah, you can interact with them. They have a friend of mine had like a DJ session and invited a bunch of people over. He had tricked out his basement, and then they had a party.
The basement of his island?
The basement of
his
a house. A basement of the house in the island.
On the island, on the game.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I just want to interject briefly because I know you guys talked about this last week on your podcast, but the 7 o'clock clap is happening now.
It's happening.
So I don't know if any of it will get picked up on the microphone.
I can hear it a little bit. Yeah.
So it's every day there?
So it's interesting actually. I feel like in my neighborhood, which is South Williamsburg, I don't hear it too often. And also because our apartment is sort of in the back, it's not like a street facing apartment. I feel like I hear it less. But if I can hear it now, which seems surprising to me, because even like if I've been outside, I feel like I haven't. You hear like a few claps, a few whoops, and like that's it. But definitely, the closer you get to the river, those people go nuts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. It's like all those tall condos. Everyone's stuck inside and just yelling.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if somebody went to all the neighborhoods and like did a survey. To figure out which neighborhood had the loudest whoop ratio.
Yeah, that would be cool with just like a recorder.
Yeah. You should tell us a little bit about your garden.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know you've been
my own Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. You've been sending along some pictures. And tell us about how it's developed. And
okay, well, so we have a backyard, and we just have like a little grassy area that basically, over the years, we've lived here 3 years, and this is our 3rd year, I guess. So, each year I kind of add a little bit more. Like the first year we planted some bushes, and then the next year like had some flowers and, grew some herbs. This year I actually put in like a 4x8 raised garden bed. Definitely was brought on by the pandemic, like need to self-sustain.
Yeah.
Can I do this? And turns out, I can, I think.
Wow.
So we've had a couple casualties. The basil did not make it.
Right.
I think when I planted it, it was... Well, actually, like after I planted, I think in early April, must have been early April, and then we had like that period of really cold, raining weeks, and the basil just did not like that at all. And then I have 4 tomato plants, and there's 2 cherry tomato plants that seem to be doing really well. And there's one. I think it's a beefsteak tomato plant that seems to be doing okay. But then there was one tomato plant called a lemon boy, which I was really excited about. And I don't think he's going to make it.
Not the lemon boy.
Yeah, lemon boy is not looking too good. Part of it, definitely, I take Basil out there on a leash. And he definitely likes to go in there, and he dug up my strawberry plant.
Oh,
and then like pooped on top of it. So I've had to be more diligent about monitoring him when he's outside. But of course there's like stray cats all around, and who knows what they're doing. I think they just see it as a giant litter box, unfortunately.
Oh no.
But besides that, we've already harvested some romaine lettuce and some bok choy.
Wow.
And I have some broccoli babies on the way.
Yes.
Nice.
So the interesting thing about it is, I don't have any experience with growing vegetables in like a real way.
Right.
So I posted on Instagram about the broccoli, and this guy that I used to work with actually has recently like gotten really into gardening, and he gave me some hot tips about broccoli worms will develop like underneath the broccoli head, and you like completely can't see them. So he recommended like getting this spray for it that's, not harmful to anyone but the worms, which it will kill.
Great.
Yeah, so I guess I need to get some of that.
Yeah, that's good to. Are they like what are these worms like? Are they like little, like the cute little inchworm, or is it like a worm?
Oh,
Like a earthworm, I guess is.
Are these things cute or not?
Yeah, that's the question.
I want to say they're probably cute.
Yeah.
Right? Because like broccoli it's not that big.
It's not that big, but they're not cute when you're like bringing it inside and you're like, what is that?
No.
Under
but
my broccoli.
Like, do you get like I definitely learned this from getting our farm share. Is like you would get like ears of corn, and it's just very common for them to have a worm in them.
Oh. I actually did not know that. We have 2 ears of corn in the fridge right now, so I'm kind of nervous.
But it's like, you just cut that part off and
Okay.
eat the rest of the corn.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But I think that these broccoli worms might be a little more harmful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a real disconnect with our food, not just us personally, I feel like,
Yeah.
as a culture, and the idea that there are things that come attached to your food is something that we have been spared the past, 30 or 40 years. I was thinking particularly about fish. I don't know if we were cooking fish recently or
Yeah.
somehow it came up, but like there are parasites in fish a lot of times, and it's totally normal to just remove them, but it seems like really disturbing.
Yeah, I did not
they're-
know that either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
I'm never eating anything again. All the food is poison.
Well, it's funny. I mean, this has nothing to do with worms or parasites or anything. But even like potatoes or like greens, it's funny. I kind of like the farm that we get our farm share from. Like periodically, they'll send out newsletters, and every so often, like they remind people, like, oh, like if there's like some like dirt on your vegetables, it's because they come from the ground, which is full of dirt, and you're gonna have to
Right.
wash them. Like we're a small farm who's like just trying to get this food to you. Like we're
Right.
not gonna wash it before that happens. So like you're going to have to wash this, and that's normal.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if people are used to getting their stuff from the grocery store, it's like pristine, wet, misted,
Totally.
bright.
Totally. Yeah, and even like you get the spinach that's like in the little box and it's been washed 3 times and you're like, cool. Just gonna dump this straight into my pot or whatever.
It's all the supermodel
Yeah.
food.
Yeah, but I'm impressed that you're growing a whole garden in your backyard in Brooklyn.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really exciting. Like every day I kind of go out there and like it's really fun like watching them grow. One of the most exciting parts so far has been like I had this bag of sunflower seeds that I got from the farm share, and I was like, oh my god, like I am not gonna crack every single one of these open to get the seed inside, and like, what am I gonna do with these?
Yeah.
And my mom actually was like, well, why don't you just like throw them in the backyard and see what happens? I was
Oh.
like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And so I actually kind of regret doing it in the garden bed now. But anyway, I like planted a bunch of seeds in the garden bed just to like see. I threw a ton in there. And they're growing. And so I'm going to have like a ton of sunflowers.
Oh my gosh.
That's exciting.
That's cool. Sunflowers are so beautiful. But yeah, they're going to take over, aren't they?
I think
They're
so.
huge.
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
It'll be cool. But,
Yeah.
okay, I missed out on like 4 other tomato plants, I guess.
Right. Well, now you know for next year.
Yeah.
Had your mom or dad tended to gardens growing up? Like, did you have an exposure to it prior?
Yeah, my mom for sure. And she still does. I mean, she lives on like a huge plot of land, and she doesn't do too much of it, but her husband now, Tom, he has like a whole like hoop house, and like he's always out there like tending their vegetables. So I got a lot of advice from him when I was starting this. He's the one who told me that my basil was doomed, basically.
Oh.
But he also was the one who told me that there were a few days when it was going to get below 40 degrees. And he was like, oh, you have to protect your tomato plants because, they like it to be like really hot and sunny. And if it gets too cold, they'll die. And so I like went out there and I like covered them with little buckets.
Oh.
It's like had to like tuck in my tomato plants.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you were already able to get lettuce. I mean, I know nothing, so obviously I'm sure that's possible. But was that expected relative to what you had learned about them prior to planting? That like the lettuce and the bok choy was something that was going to be harvestable right away?
So the lettuce and the bok choy, they actually love cold weather. So they've been doing really well. I mean, I still don't really know anything about like maturing days. I've kind of just been doing it by sight. But I think like lettuce and greens like usually take 20 days. And I guess it's actually been, longer than that. But the thing that I did learn about them, because I was kind of like contemplating, was it worth planting these bok choy plants? Because like I personally could eat a whole bok choy for, in one meal.
Sure.
And, it's sort of like, what is the point of doing this rather than just like buying one bok choy? Because, but now that I've actually harvested them, the trick is, because I have four bok choy plants, and instead of like pulling up the whole thing like you would normally see at the grocery store,
right,
you just cut off the outer leaves. And so I like cut off all the outer leaves from all four plants and basically was able to get a big enough bundle for dinner that night. And then the plants keep growing.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And so like the same with the romaine lettuce.
Oh, okay.
As well.
Oh, so
Like,
you just pull off like what you want.
Yeah, so because, like you wouldn't like harvest the whole plant like you would see in the grocery store, let's say. But yeah, you just take off like however many leaves you want, and then that allows the plant to keep growing and growing and growing.
That's so cool.
That is very cool. Jesse and I had a similar, I guess, discussion
About
this
the
week.
green onion? Yeah, I read online. I was so excited. I read that if you take the green onions and you put them in water, you can use like the green part, and then if you put the white part in water, it'll keep growing.
Whoa, really?
And it happened so fast, and I did it, and in like 2 days, I had 2 inches more, and I
Wow.
used it. But then Mike was not happy that they were on the counter, so we stopped doing it.
Yes, I was the counter to this counter plant growing operation.
Yeah, it's fair. We have not very much counter space, but I would like to
Could
do
you
that.
keep it in the fridge?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know if you can. I should look that up. No, we disposed of it. But I would like to find a spot to do stuff like that because it seems so cool, and it's like also it's nice to be self-sufficient, and it's also just nice that this little plant can keep giving. Like I never knew that I could even use that part, and it's like it's still alive, and you can like just use that one bit and like there's so much that's nice about it.
On face value, I like the idea. It just is the combination of that with our kitchen, where our kitchen's so small, even something that's this, I mean, I think it may have even been growing.
I think it was in this cup.
In this cup. It just adds to this thing where like it looks perpetually dirty in our kitchen.
Yeah.
And because there's just not any counter space. I mean, our kitchen is not bigger than this table.
Yeah.
And so if not everything is like back, it just looks like there's dirty dishes and we're not tending to our house. And
I hear that.
That
It's fair.
it's not worth the price of getting green onions every 3 weeks to a month,
Yeah,
So-
I guess like it's exciting to me because it's like it's not about the price, like the monetary value, like green onions are like 95 cents or something, but it's just like, oh, look at this thing that I can do. But I also had no problem just not doing it. And in the future, I will do it because now I know that I can.
Well, Jessie was like, just throw it out without me. Don't let me know.
I did say that. I did.
Yeah.
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 So I made it part of when I was cleaning up the kitchen. That's when it went away.
Yeah.
But maybe someday. I mean, we do have plants around the house, so.
Yeah,
just-
we do.
Yeah.
Just nestle it. with
Yeah,
one of
I'll
those.
put it next to the aloe or something when next time.
That's right.
See how that goes.
Yeah. We have a funny, interaction with a lot of stuff in the house. One thing that Jessie does is hide snacks around the house
I do that.
because I don't like having snacks in the house because I'll just eat them mindlessly. So she's pretty good at hiding them because I've never found any of them. And I also think that if I did find them, I would be okay. I wouldn't eat them because I'd be like, I would respect the idea that it needed to be hidden from me. But just bringing in something into the house where it's like, oh, I got a bag of chips. It's like, not for long. Where that bag of chips is going to be gone pretty much in a day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Do you and Chris have any funny household tricks that you play on each other?
Well, I mean, he might have a different opinion, I guess, than I do. I don't think so. I mean, I also have a snack problem, I would say. It's really more cheese related. I just can't stop eating it. I love cheese. No, I don't think we have anything like that, but it is always funny to me when Chris puts the dishes away, like where he decides to put them, which is not where they go.
Oh my gosh.
And, so that's always kind of like a fun little game. I'm like, either I'll open the cupboard and we'll see something that I didn't expect to see, or I'll be looking for something and I'll be like, Chris, where is this thing? And he'll be like, I don't know. And I'm like, but you're the one who put it away. And he's like, yeah, well, I can't be expected to remember.
Oh my gosh.
like how foundational are we talking here? Like, does he know where the knives, forks, and spoons go?
Yeah.
Okay. Does he know where spatulas go?
Debatable.
That's a pretty.
That's funny.
I guess I have a pretty strong idea of where everything goes, but there are some top tier things, and apparently there are some things that Jessie
When
knows.
Sophie was saying that, it's so funny because it doesn't bother me, so I don't know if I've ever brought it up, but you never put the rice cooker lid with the rice cooker, and it's not always in the same place. Like, I'll look around, I take out the rice cooker, and I'm like, oh, the lid's not on, and then I'm like, oh, it's not there, oh, it's not there, oh, there it is, and sometimes it's behind something, and it's a fun little game, and our kitchen's not that big, so I look in 3 places and I found it.
2 points to that.
Here we go.
First point, we have a pot that is very similarly sized and even has a glass top and it has a hole with a metal circle around it. And it Yes, it looks exactly the same except the handles are different. That's one.
Rice cooker has a short gray handle and it's wider and it's not as thick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 2, you have brought it up once before.
Oh, I have?
And when you did bring it
In a
up,
blind rage.
well,
Was it?
it was. So we have a cutting board, and Jessie washes the cutting board and then puts it behind the faucet.
Not anymore. I did.
And
Tense.
behind the faucet is where there's water, and as a consequence, the board was getting mildewy on the bottom. So I was like, hey, look, in the future, I know you put it back there, but could you please, put it over here so that way we avoid the mildew? And Jessie was like, Sure. By the way, the rice cooker top needs to go with the rice cooker, just so you know.
So embarrassing.
And I was like...
But also seems about right.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm asking you to do something, so I should do something too. And every time now, I have put it back there, to my knowledge.
Have you? Okay. I guess I haven't noticed. But you also said that I put where I used to put. I have never put that there again. So.
You're right. You're right.
The inner workings.
Well, we've trained each other.
It's nice that at least your issues tend to get resolved.
I mean, I'm sure we could dig up some unresolved issues.
Yes, let's.
Well, here's one that I don't think it goes to the depths of unresolved where we'll have to hang up the phone with you. But what does your laundry situation look like?
Oh.
Because I
don't even know what this is going to be. That's how unresolved it is.
That's why I say it isn't unresolved.
Yeah.
We get our laundry back from the laundromat. I will put all of my things away, and then I will, because I inevitably am the first person to put the laundry away, I will then put Jessie's things on the bed for her to put away. And that's really because I know where the socks go and the underwear kind of goes, but after that, I mean, all bets are off. And socks and underwear are so easy, you figure just leave it there. But like, how does it work in your house? Is it like a strictly you deal with your stuff, he deals with his stuff, or how does that go?
Yeah, it's completely separate.
Mm-hmm.
I wash all of our like sheets and towels and all our like communal items. But other than that, it's completely separate.
Oh, well, you also have a washing machine in your house. So you even do your separate laundry separate? Like you do the wash separate? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like our washing machine is very small. So it wouldn't really make sense. But no, we each have our own laundry basket. And you just do your laundry when you're going to do your laundry. And you're in charge of your own.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That's a cool method. I think what we do works too because we just drop it off. But also, I think you said you always put it away first. That's not true. And when I put it away first, I stack yours by category and I put away your socks and underwear. And sometimes I even put away your t-shirts because they're in the bedroom. But I don't usually hang your dress shirts because that seems like I don't want to do that.
No. I would say
it has been quite a while since I have put away laundry first.
I think it's like 1 in 10.
I'm not upset about it. That's fine. I'll take that.
I couldn't even begin to imagine putting someone else's laundry away, just because like it's so daunting the amount of laundry that I have to put away myself.
Yeah, it's like once you get into the more specific stuff too. Like I would never. And like you said, you could probably put away my socks and underwear, but like if you tried to put away my pants and shirts and dresses and stuff, it would be just like I wouldn't. Yeah. It would be like the rice cooker top. I wouldn't know where anything was, and like
I also
my
have
closet's not fun to navigate.
I have a very particular way that I like fold things and like roll things up because you know it's like it's New York City, so we are literally the only closet that we have in our apartment is like a single one-door closet, and you know and so you have to be able to fit a lot in there, and it's like, you know, my things like compact down so small and I like have them in all these different containers, and like there's no way that anyone else could figure that out. And you know, it's like I'm a pretty particular person as well when it comes to certain things, and like every now and then, you know, Chris will like try to do something nice for me, and like he's like, oh yeah, I folded your laundry, and I just like look at it, I'm like, I'm just gonna have to redo it.
Is that a spatula in my laundry?
Why is my underwear in the oven?
Oh my gosh, that would be funny.
Do you share a closet?
No.
Oh, okay.
So basically, so we have the closet, our one closet, which is where I keep all of my clothes, and it's where we also keep like our communal towels and everything. And then we have a space of wall, and then on the other side of that wall is like a little nook, which I don't know why that's how the room was built, but it is. And so I put up a little like curtain rod there, and so that's where like Chris hangs all of his things that need to be hung, and then I built him a little dresser that goes in the nook.
Oh, nice.
So we kind of have our own closets.
Yeah.
That's good. I can't imagine a scenario where I could share a closet with someone. That would be like having a bad shower. I think that's on the par of like necessities for an apartment. I need a separate closet space. I need a good shower.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much everything else I can handle.
That makes sense. That's like the morning routine stuff that you just like, it just needs to flow because you're not like a human yet.
Yeah. How is everything with respect to coronavirus in Michigan? I mean, you have a connection to Michigan, and I feel like it's one of, I mean, aside from New York, probably the most high-profile state as far as with protests and things like that, and the governor clashing with the president and whatnot. Is there any specific insight that you have into the dealings of the state based on your connections?
Yeah. No, not really. Yeah, sorry, that's not a very good answer, but no, it's funny, like it's, as you said, like, I don't know, it's kind of similar to New York, right? Like people will contact me and be like, oh my God, like, I hear all these crazy things happening in New York City, like, are you okay? And all these things. And I'm just, sort of like looking around my apartment like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, nothing's kind of changed for me personally, in the past 2 months. But yeah, so I feel like it's similar with people like living in Michigan. Like no one that I know is protesting.
Right.
Everyone that I know is staying at home and quarantining. So there's, very much in the same situation that I am. The only time, like the conversation I had about it with my mom's husband was when, those like armed protesters stormed the Capitol building.
Right.
Or was it the governor's office?
I think it was the Capitol building, yeah.
Yeah. So, that was like a pretty huge thing in the media. But, and it was a big deal. But yeah, basically he was saying like, it was only like a small group of protesters that basically like, I don't want to use the word manipulation, but I think it was made out to be a bigger thing maybe than it was. And like having guns and storming the Capitol is a big thing, but it's not like all of Michigan feels that way.
Right.
Or is moved to act in that way, if that makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, that happens so often with media, right? They focus in on the thing that's the most sensational and then run with it, and it kind of just overwhelms everything else. Like, no one wants to read about someone who has an opinion and said it really nicely to someone else.
Right. Yeah. They need the drama.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, I'm happy to hear that the people in Michigan are, not bothered, or not bothered, that's not right, but like, not involved in that in any way, or affected is the word. But yeah, it's also disappointing that keeps happening even in this time. I guess moving into like over the last couple of months, I thought going into this, I remember Mike saying, this is going to become politicized. COVID is going to become politicized. And I was like, that's insane. There's no way. Like, this is a world health crisis. We're all on the same page. We're all going to deal with this together. There's no way this is going to become politicized. And here we are. Yeah. And it's because of stuff like that getting so focused in on like these small handful of people that are doing something really stupid. And then everyone gets angry about it, and it causes all these fights and makes us all feel so polarized. And yeah, it's so unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think about this a lot in terms of like technology and access to information, right? Because like with this whole pandemic, like it's been hard enough to figure out what is the right thing to do, You know, like in the beginning, you know, like when all the shutdowns were happening, like, do I stay home? Do I wear a mask? People are telling me it's not a good idea to wear a mask. Now it's like mandatory to wear a mask. And it's a lot to sort of grasp. And like, you know, I would say like that's been like the one of the points of like contention between me and Chris is like, you know, trying to figure out what our like household protocol is and getting on the same page with that. And it's like, you know, we're both trying to make our own decisions and like follow the guidelines, but like the guidelines keep changing.
Totally.
And so, you know, I feel like it was inevitable for this to be politicized because like you read the numbers that like, let's say like right-wing people are projecting and they're like, oh, actually, like, the percentage of people who died is much smaller than what we're being told. And then you have people on the other side of the spectrum saying, actually, the number is much bigger than what we're being told. And it's like, you know, someone like me, I'm like, well, why are we being told anything?
Right.
Like, does any of this matter? Like, I don't know. Like, it's really hard to navigate.
I also feel that. I feel like it's really overwhelming. And I've realized only in the last like 2 weeks maybe that it's actually up to each of us to figure out how we handle it. And then like this whole time I've been like waiting for someone to tell me what to do. And like, especially at the beginning, I remember calling 311 on March 12th being like, hey, I have people working for me. Are they still supposed to come to work? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Should I tell them not to ride the subway? Like what? And they were like, I don't know. There's like, go online, look at the website. And then, so I like took, you know, I was like, well, in 2 weeks, we'll like know. Someone will tell me what to do. And I feel like this whole time I've been like, when are they going to tell me? And now realizing they're just not.
Yeah.
There's not going to be consensus.
Yeah, and I heard on the radio yesterday, they said that like the CDC basically released new guidelines that say that it can only be passed now with person-to-person contact. Like you can't get it from, let's say, a box of cereal that you bought at the store.
Oh.
Well, we've been washing our cereal boxes for months, so.
We have. But then it's like, okay, we've also been washing our cereal boxes for 3 months now because we were told that if we don't, we're going to die. So, like, I don't know if I'm going to stop just because the CDC, like, all of this new, like, is that what? Like, how, what?
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Yeah, that's so, it's so, yeah. I mean, I understand also, like at the same time as being so overwhelmed and annoyed by all of the changes, I also understand it because I think this isn't how scientists usually have to work. Like they don't usually have to find the answer. Like they're usually supposed to remember science class, you would make a hypothesis and then you would do a whole thing and then you'd make another hypothesis and it would be like your whole like school season making hypotheses and these scientists are supposed to just figure it out in 3 days and tell us exactly what to do. Like, come on. Of course they're not going to be able to, but also it's really overwhelming.
But also, it's been a lot longer than 3 days.
That's true. It's been 3 months. How many Barney episodes has it been?
God.
So many Barneys.
But if you think, like, you know, starting back from, like, when did we start hearing about it? November, December?
Like when it was in China?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometime in the fall, October, November was when it was happening. And
I remember, like, I've been thinking about this a lot, actually. This one specific moment when I was working in an office in Manhattan. And my boss, you know, like said to me, like, oh yeah, like oh my God, like I just got out of a really long meeting about like preparing like what we're gonna do if we need to shut down, and me being like, what? Like, wow, like you're really having serious meetings about this?
Wow.
And, you know, she was like, yeah, I mean, you know, like basically like they're saying now that like it's not like if it's coming to America, it's when.
Right.
And like at that time, it was still like such an abstract concept to me.
Yeah.
That this would be our lives. And just, like how rapidly it all happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember it must have been right around that time when de Blasio was like, said exactly that, was like, it's not if, it's when. And I remember thinking that it would be like Ebola. Like a couple years, remember a couple years ago, Ebola, there was like one guy, he had Ebola, I was all freaked out. And then it was like 2 days later, we were like, don't worry, there's no Ebola. That guy is actually fine now. And it didn't spread. We're fine. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see that people, there's the baseline of like, we don't know what's going on. We don't know, we're getting so much misinformation or just different types of information. And I think that a lot of people don't feel comfortable existing in that space of not understanding. Mm-hmm. And then it just so happens that this time in history is a really terrible time for a lot of things, but in particular for media's use of shocking and salacious details in order to further a business model. And so if you're left with the option of not knowing something or attaching yourself into an ideology where you can feel good about yourself because you know more than what another person is doing, people are going to pick that almost any time. And that just creates this situation that creates politicization, where it's like you have these ideas of feeling better than somebody else in this current climate are attached to politics. Yeah. And so it becomes, my side is right and your side's wrong.
Well, also just like the unknowing, if you've ever dealt with someone in your family thinking that they're sick and going in for test results or going in to get tested. And everyone always says, the waiting to find out is the hardest part. Regardless of the outcome, it'll be better than the waiting because even if it's, bad results, then you deal with it, then you make a plan, then you figure out how to move forward. And right now we're all in that waiting period, and it's like usually you're in it for like a day or like an hour or whatever, and this is a long time, and we don't know how to sit with this.
Yeah. Well, it's also, I know, like last week, right, you guys talked a lot about what normal is, and it's very interesting to think about, right, because a lot of people say like, oh, like when we get back to normal and everything. So, like, let's say they came out with a vaccine tomorrow. Yeah. And it was like, like, this is the vaccine. We're doing it. Would you guys get it?
I've thought about that a lot. I would be really nervous. I'd be that's going to happen one day. Like, in our near-ish future. And I think I'm going to be really nervous because I'm such a hypochondriac and like an anxious future thinker. And my first thought is, what if everything that's been tested so far is fine, but then in 3 years, like Brussels sprouts grow from my head or something, like something crazy happens and like we all explode.
Well, then you would be very self-sustaining.
That's a good point. Okay. Then yes. No, I mean, definitely I would get it. I don't think there'd be much choice at that point. Which would probably be comforting in some way, but I would be nervous. I'd definitely be nervous about it.
I think I'd be more inclined to get it now than later.
Interesting.
I'd probably get it both instances, just so I wouldn't have to talk about it anymore, and just be like, no, I have the vaccine. Okay, I'm fine. Please, you can hug me. It's okay.
Yeah.
But later down the line, I would be more inclined to think that if there's information that suggests it's not seasonal like the flu, and there is a degree of herd immunity, and maybe I've been tested and I have antibodies, those would all be things that would make me go, do I really have to get this? I don't feel, and I've gotten the flu shot every year for 15, 16 years, so it's not like I'm scared about that aspect of it. It's more just like, if it isn't something that I absolutely need or I can get by with an acceptable level of risk, then I would probably prefer not to.
Yeah.
What do you think about it, Sophie?
I think I would be skeptical to get it first round. I think I would maybe wait. And again, like, I don't know how beneficial this would be to me, but I think I would be more inclined to wait like 6 months, like see what happens to all the people who got it.
Right, make sure that they don't have the Brussels sprouts. Yeah.
But so I guess I have like a follow-up question to that, because Chris and I were also talking about this, like all the things that basically even when we start opening back up, like won't exist, like dance clubs. Like I cannot imagine going to like a sweaty club where you're like bumping up against other sweaty bodies.
Yeah.
And so we were sort of like talking about that, and I was like, okay, but even after there's a vaccine, do you think people will start going to those things again, like bowling alleys, like karaoke, like any of these things that seem so gross now?
Right. I think that they will. I mean, I agree. Like, thinking about it now, I'm like, no, that's never gonna happen again. But then when I like really think about it a little bit more, I think it will. I think it'll be similar to like our feeling about the vaccine, where people might be a little trepidatious at first, but I think we've fallen into this current normal pretty quickly in the grand scheme of things, and I think it'll potentially be the same going out of it. Like the first year even might be really tricky, and then at some point we'll just keep moving forward and realize that it's safe and feel safe.
So if I were not in a relationship, there's the question, am I in a relationship or am I not in a relationship? Obviously I'm in a relationship, so I need to consider the thoughts and feelings of the person that I am with. But I'm like excited, I'm like ready, let's do it now. Like, like obviously that's, makes no sense. But at the same time, like I am super excited for the time when that can happen, because it's going to be the normal level of fun, plus this whole other tier of people like finding connection, and like the time when like you would bump into somebody and they'd like, give you a look. Like either they need to be out of that dance place because they are not ready for that, or that level of like, angst you would feel is just going to be gone, and people are just going to be happy to be with each other, and like that is, I feel like there's just a spring that's just waiting for this to happen. And I hope that whenever that time becomes acceptable, Jesse is on the same page as I am, and then we can go and enjoy that bounty of human connection.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I can't remember I told you guys this already, but there was one night that I went for a walk by myself, and I was already like, I was having a pretty rough week that week. It was like a cry every day type week instead of a like once or twice,
Yeah.
But
understood.
So I was on this walk, and I was near McCarran Park, and someone had like brought a big speaker out. They like had parked their car on a street and had a speaker out on the street. It was just like playing like music, and a couple of people had stopped by, and like everyone was distanced, but it was just like a street like dance party. And I just started like sobbing. I was just like, oh my God, this is so nice, because like all of the communication and interactions that we've had have been with people that we're friends with or family or are living with,
right? And
not necessarily strangers. And so just to like have this moment of like a dance party with strangers at nighttime in the middle of the street was just like, so I was like, I didn't know how much I needed this.
Oh.
And it was like such a nice moment. I was seriously like, oh my God, like thank you so much for doing this. Like it's something so small as like playing music. Like, I don't know. So I think I would have a hard time like maybe if someone was like, oh, like, do you want to go to this bar with me? I think I might be a little hesitant. Like, again, like assuming that things are, still very contagious and not having a vaccine. But like, I think it would be a different story if I was somewhere and something like music like pulled me into
Right.
something. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah. Like once, I mean, I guess that's like our humanity, just like the inner workings getting pulled on.
Yeah.
And once that starts happening, then you loosen up a little bit and forget about the fear. Once we know that the fears are maybe irrational to some degree further on in the future, or unnecessary anymore is a better word, I think we'll be able to have experiences like that and let go of it.
Yeah.
So that totally makes sense. I love that that happened for you. That's such a
really
nice story.
Oh my God, it was so nice. I seriously, like, after that, I, like, left feeling like there is still good in this world.
Oh. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really nice. I
That's
can
great.
see how that would happen.
Yeah.
Because it's hard, I think, during this time. Like, of course, you see all the nice stories of people raising money, you know, or like healthcare workers. Like, of course, like you see all those stories,
Sure.
and then it's like, but those like big meaningful stories are always combated by all this like negativity coming from like the political and like also like all these people dying and you know. And so those like the two like big things that are like battling
Yeah.
all the time. But like you never really hear about these like small moments of
Right.
like, you know, just something that like so insignificant and like most like people didn't experience that day. But like for the 10 people that I saw, you know,
Right.
I think it was like
Yeah.
a really nice moment.
Yeah, it was a major moment.
We've been having a similar thing, I think similar in sentiment, with respect to this cafe that opened recently. So we have this connection with a woman that is a server at Father Knows Best, the bar up the street from us. And she opened up a cafe with her husband, like 6 streets down on Hancock and Wilson. And they opened on like March 11th or something.
Wow.
And so it immediately,
Yeah. Wow.
So it
Yeah.
immediately closed down. And we didn't even know of its existence. But we were walking around the streets 3 weeks ago or so.
Yeah.
And we happened to see this woman occasionally. She must live within like a 2-block radius from us. So we see her, and she's like super boisterous personality, very engaging. And so we ended up having a conversation with her, just saying hello, and she told us about the cafe and that it was reopening on May 8th. And so we remembered about that like 2 weeks ago, and we've since been there twice now. And both times she's just been like super appreciative and, you know, really accommodating and wanting to give us the best experience possible, even though we're just getting like coffee, you know. Like
Yeah.
Jesse's getting a coffee, I'm getting a tea, and she has bagels, which I have had this long-standing beef with our neighborhood. There is not a bagel place within a mile radius. Like I've done the sweep of the neighborhood.
Yeah, we've talked about it
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, and it just seems preposterous to me that nobody has taken advantage of this hole in the market,
Yeah.
this bagel-shaped hole. And
Yeah.
so
But
she,
here we are.
yeah, she has bagels, and I've told her the second time we went there, I was like, hey, listen, I'm really glad you have bagels because I've been thinking about this for years. And she's like, I know. I've said to my kids for years, like, why are there no bagel place? I want a bagel place around here. And these are from H&H Bagels. And I was like, this is awesome. Great.
Yeah.
And yeah, just being able to have that opportunity to show goodwill to someone,
Yeah.
I mean, she's definitely on the stranger spectrum. We're friendly
Yeah.
acquaintance. And
Yeah, but in the last 2 weeks, she's become one of our close friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
She's
Yeah.
we've actually interacted with her in person twice now, and that's amazing. You know?
Yeah. Like more than you've interacted with your actual friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So those small moments are there, and I think they're going to be. I think whenever the government makes the official statement that we are in a new phase, that's when things are going to snowball in a way that I think people are going to be naturally uncomfortable about in some respects, but in a way that we just have to start going in that direction.
I think so too. Yeah.
And I think people will naturally, you've already seen it with the weather, and I think people are kind of like getting a little fed up, I guess.
Yeah.
With staying in, but I think people would naturally gravitate towards some sort of interaction with other people.
Yeah. And I think we'll just, to some extent, we're just kind of going to have to figure it out on our own. Like, everyone's going to have to do what's comfortable for them and try not to get too shitty towards each other, like try and accept that everybody's doing their best and doing, and like I can make my decisions and you can make your decisions. And we are more tied than other people, but I can make my decisions and the neighbor across the street can make their decisions, and we can respect that as long as we're not actually putting each other in danger.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, we should let you go. You've talked to us for a long time, I think. I don't know what time it is, but I think it's been a while.
Yeah, we've had a good sesh.
I really enjoyed this. Well, it's actually a good time to end, I guess, because I was just wondering if I should turn a light on. Now, like, the sun has gone down.
It's been slowly getting darker on your end, but that's okay. It'll show, like, the progression of time.
The candle's very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So this is, I was kind of thinking about, like, what my biggest, like, quarantine, like, things I think I'll remember about quarantine. Like, I've definitely been utilizing the candles lately.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and just like really setting the atmosphere.
Nice. Is it visual or olfactory? Is that the right word?
Sure.
Nose?
Yeah.
Sniff?
Sniff.
Is your candle scented?
So some of them are, some of them are not. Most of them are just candles I made myself, which are scented.
Cool.
But no, it's just like, these tall white ones.
Yeah. They're very nice.
Nice lighting.
Yeah.
No, it's mostly visual. Lighting to me in general is pretty important. But I actually like, if I have a bunch of candles lit, and then let's say we go out in the backyard and come back in, I've been noticed, like, I don't notice it when I'm in the room, but when I leave and come back, I'm like, oh my God, it smells so nice in here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What scent?
Oh, I don't know. Some version of like pine, but honestly, like the last batch of candles I made, I'm basically just trying to use up all of the essential oils I have now. So it's like some combination of like bergamot, birch tar, cedar.
Whoa.
Yeah. The birch tar is really intense, and I have a lot of it that I need to get rid of.
Nice.
It smells like thick bonfire mixed with like molasses.
Oh, wow.
So
it's intense.
Your house just smells like a northern Vermont tchotchke shop, basically.
Yeah.
Nice.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
That's how we travel.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. This was fantastic.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you all for those that are watching for joining us as well and listening. Obviously, if you're on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you're listening to us on Podbean, which is the MP3 version of this, thank you for doing that. If you didn't know that existed, thank you for listening to me and maybe downloading it instead of being on YouTube and watching it.
Yeah, and I think starting this week, you can also find us on iTunes.
That's right. We're just going to keep expanding. But again, thank you so much, Sophie, for being our first guest.
Thank you.
And yeah, have a great day.
It was an honor. You guys too.
Bye.
Bye.